Hi! In this video I will show you a quick solution to the first RPA challenge, where we're given an input file and we're meant to populate a set of forms online. The trick here is that our selectors are actually dynamic, and if we click submit, you can see that the fields are changing their position every time. Because of these unstable positions, you often see solutions to the RPA challenge that involve anchor-based activities. However, there is a much simpler way of solving this with just one set text or type into activity, which I'm going to show you in this video. So let's start by looking at our input file. One important thing to note is that our headers correspond exactly to our label names. So for example, if you see here first name, we've got F and N in capital, and we have the exact same first name spelling here. And if you notice, that's the same for all the fields. So actually, if we could find some kind of a selector that uses the label names, such as role in company, we could even just read those labels dynamically from our spreadsheet. So next step is to look at our UI Explorer. So what I've done here is I indicated element as our first name, and you can see that it has this random ID, which looks nothing like first name. So that's not good enough. So let's try and tick the upper level of our tree. So again, we've got this CSS selector, but it doesn't point us in the direction of, something tangible like first name or company name. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to look at all the unselected items for our selector. And we can see here that there is the innertext field. So I'm going to go ahead and tick that. And I'm going to get rid of all the indicators that I don't like, that don't look stable to me. So I've unticked this CSS selector. And I'm also going to remove the ID. Awesome. So now it looks pretty basic, and it's got this inner text which looks exactly as the label name on our page. So let's try and validate this. And it worked. So let's go ahead and try to find another form and see if that works now. And it did work again. So let's try and highlight it. Awesome. So I'm just going to do it once again, just to ensure that we've covered different form scenarios. So I'm just going to revalidate it again. And I expected to find this first name field here. Awesome. So sounds like we're all sorted. And if you remember earlier, we noted that the label names are exactly the same as our headers in the input file. So what we're going to do is in our code, we will dynamically replace this inner text with a variable, which would be a header from our input file. And I'm going to show you the code for that now. So if we start from the very beginning, so let me just close the UI Explorer. So you can see here in the code, I start by reading range. And at first I just read range to get that first row, the first row with our headers, to assign an array so that we just get all the headers in one clean array. And you can see here that the code is just pointing to the data table that we read here. And I'm selecting the zeros row for our array. Then the next activity is to read range to get the full data table, and in this one I've got the add headers ticked. You can see that I'm assigning the data table to input data table variable. And the next step is for us to open browser, so that's just the rpachallenge.com. I'm using Chrome. And within that open browser, the first activity is for us to click Start to actually start the competition. Next, we have the for each row, where we're going to loop through every row in our input data table. And within that for each row, we've got the nested loop. And this one is just looping through our array of headers so that we can just use one set text or type into activity. So you can see here that my first activity of choice is the type into. And you can see that what I'm typing into is based on whatever field I'm populating. It will be our row header to string. The header is just the header in our array of headers that we got from the input file. And if we look at our selector, it looks exactly as what we've seen in the UI Explorer, except for the inner text, we're assigning dynamically to whatever header we are going through in our array of headers. So once we've populated all of the fields using all of our headers, we click submit and move on to the next form. So it's a very short code, as you can see, just kind of one scroll. So I'm just going to run it to show you how it works and how fast it submits the forms using Type Into activity. One important thing to note is perhaps some of the parameters that I've put for the Type Into activity. So you can see here that I've put the delays as zeros and the timeout as well. In terms of wait for ready, I set it to none, so it's a bit faster. I've also set delay between keys to 0, tick the empty field and tick the simulate type. So this should work pretty fast. So let's try and test it out. And you can see it's working pretty swiftly. There are 10 rounds, so we're nearly there. Just one round left. And we're done. And you can see here that we've completed it in a bit over 23 seconds. And our success rate is a full 100%. And that's just with one set text activity. Sorry, type into activity. Set text activity is something we're going to test now. So I'm going to go back to our code. And instead of type into, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable our type into activity and I'm going to enable our set text activity. And you can see that in terms of the values, they're exactly the same. And in terms of the selectors, they will be exactly the same as well. And in terms of the parameters, you can see that the delays, again, I set them all to 0. The timeout is 0. Wait for ready, I'm setting that to none. And we're good to go. So let's try and see how the bot performs with set text activity, how fast we can get. So it's working pretty fast. We're nearly there already. And just one round to go. Awesome. So you can see it's very comparable results. So actually it's hard to tell which one is faster. In our particular scenario, the set text was a bit slower, but I think it may also have to do with just the environment I have. But very comparable results and quite fast as well. And also 100% success rate. So I hope you found this video useful and thank you for watching.